Ferrari has set up new processes to improve for 2026. Red Bull reveals even more benefits to new upgrades, and George reveals a contract clause in new contract. What if I told you that Red Bull just pulled off one of the most genius strategic moves in Formula One history? While every other team is already thinking about 2026, Red Bull dropped a massive upgrade package at the Mexico City Grand Prix that has their rivals completely scratching their heads. But here's the thing that'll blow your mind. This isn't actually about winning races in 2025. This is about something much bigger. And when you understand what Red Bull is really doing, you'll realize why they might just dominate the next era of Formula One before it even begins. Let me set the stage for you. We're currently witnessing the biggest technical revolution in Formula One history. Next year, cars will run on a 50-50 split between combustion engines and electric power. That's a 300% increase in battery impact compared to what we see today. The cars will be smaller, lighter, and more agile than anything we've ever seen before. Most teams recognize this massive change months ago and basically gave up developing their current cars. McLaren even announced they were done with upgrades after the Austin Grand Prix. The logic seemed obvious. Why waste resources on a car that's about to become obsolete when you could focus everything on the revolutionary 2026 regulations? Then Red Bull showed up in Mexico City with a 4-part upgrade package that nobody saw coming. They modified the front corner, engine cover, floor body, and edge wing, all designed to handle the thin air at Mexico's extreme altitude. Max Verstappen finished third behind Lando Norris, cutting his championship deficit to just 36 points. But that's not the real story here. The real story is what Red Bull team principal Laurent Mekies revealed after the race, and it's going to change how you think about Formula One strategy forever. Mekies explained that this decision has absolutely nothing to do with the 2026 regulations. Instead, it's about something far more valuable: understanding their tools, methodologies, and approaches. He said if they had turned the page on their current car while still being unhappy with its performance, they would enter 2026 with question marks in their heads and a lot of wishful thinking. Think about what this really means. While other teams are essentially gambling on untested theories for 2026, Red Bull is perfecting their development process with real-world data. They're learning exactly how their simulation tools translate to track performance. They're refining their design philosophy under pressure. They're building confidence in their entire technical operation. But here's where it gets really interesting. Red Bull has done this exact same thing before, and the results were absolutely devastating for their competition. Cast your mind back to 2021. Max Verstappen was locked in that legendary wheel-to-wheel title battle with Lewis Hamilton. While other teams might have conserved resources for the new ground effect era starting in 2022, Red Bull kept developing their car almost until the bitter end of the season. Remember that final race in Abu Dhabi? Verstappen overtook Hamilton on the last lap at turn 4 to win his first world championship. That relentless development throughout 2021 was crucial to making that moment possible. Now here's the part that should terrify every other team on the grid. Far from hurting Red Bull's preparation for 2022, that late-season development actually helped them dominate the new era. Despite 2022 being the first year of completely new ground effect aerodynamic regulations, Red Bull didn't just adapt. They absolutely crushed the competition. They won both championships in 2022, then followed that up with one of the most dominant seasons in Formula One history in 2023. Not only did they win both titles again, but they also secured a 1-2 finish in the Drivers' Championship with Verstappen and Sergio Perez. This completely demolished theory that late-season development hurts preparation for new regulations. In fact, it proved the opposite, that understanding your development process is more valuable than simply having more time to work on new concepts. So what does this mean for 2026? While teams like McLaren and Ferrari are essentially flying blind into the new regulations, Red Bull is building an incredibly deep understanding of how to extract performance from complex aerodynamic packages. They're learning which of their simulation tools are most accurate. They're discovering which development directions actually translate to lap time. When those 2026 cars hit the track, Red Bull won't just have a theoretical understanding of the new regulations. They'll have a proven, battle-tested development process that they trust completely. The genius of this strategy becomes even clearer when you consider the specific challenges of the 2026 regulations. With the massive increase in electric power and completely new aerodynamic concepts, teams will need to iterate quickly and efficiently. There won't be time for lengthy development cycles or extensive trial and error. Red Bull is essentially using 2025 as the most expensive and comprehensive training program in motorsport history. Every upgrade they test, every correlation they make between simulation and reality, every lesson they learn about aerodynamic efficiency, it's all building toward a development advantage that could define the next era of Formula One. Meanwhile, their rivals are making assumptions about what will work in 2026 without the real-world validation that Red Bull is gaining right now. When those new cars are unveiled, Red Bull will know exactly which tools to trust and which approaches deliver actual performance. This is strategic thinking on a level that most people don't even recognize. While everyone else is playing checkers, Red Bull is playing chess, and they're thinking about moves that won't pay off until 2026 and beyond. The implications extend far beyond just car development too. This approach is building institutional knowledge and confidence throughout their entire technical operation. When the pressure is on in 2026 and teams need to make critical development decisions quickly, Red Bull will have a proven framework for success. So the next time you see Red Bull bringing upgrades when other teams have given up, remember, this isn't about desperation or short-term thinking. This is about building the foundation for long-term dominance in Formula One's most revolutionary era. What if I told you that Lewis Hamilton just revealed Ferrari's secret weapon isn't what you think it is? While everyone's been focused on car development and upgrades, Hamilton dropped a bombshell after the Mexican Grand Prix that could completely change how we view Ferrari's championship ambitions. And trust me, this isn't about horsepower or aerodynamics. Let me paint you a picture. Hamilton lined up fourth in Mexico, ready to finally claim his first podium in Ferrari red. The stage was set perfectly. But then, disaster struck. A heated battle with Max Verstappen led to a 10-second penalty that crushed his podium dreams, dropping him all the way down to 8th place. You'd expect frustration, maybe some finger-pointing, right? Wrong. Instead, Hamilton did something that caught everyone off guard. He praised Ferrari. Not for the car, not for the strategy, but for something far more fundamental that most fans completely overlook. And when his teammate Charles Leclerc backed him up, it became clear that Ferrari has been working on something that could be their true competitive advantage. So what exactly is Hamilton talking about? He's referring to what he calls Ferrari's improved processes. Now, before you click away thinking this sounds boring, stick with me because this is actually revolutionary stuff. Hamilton specifically mentioned that they haven't necessarily moved the car forward in development, but they've extracted significantly more performance from what they already have. Think about that for a moment. Ferrari is getting faster without major upgrades. That's like finding extra horsepower hidden in plain sight. Hamilton broke it down into specifics that are absolutely fascinating. He talked about improvements from the moment they arrive at the track, to their debriefs, to the engineering decisions they make, to timing when they go out for practice sessions. These might sound like minor details, but in Formula One, minor details are everything. We're talking about a sport where thousandths of a second separate winners from losers, where the difference between pole position and fourth place can be decided by factors invisible to television viewers. What's really intriguing is how Hamilton described his personal journey with the Ferrari. After spending years mastering the Mercedes, he's had to completely relearn how to drive. He admitted that Leclerc has had 7 years to understand this car's characteristics while he's been playing catch-up. But now, finally, Hamilton says he's figuring it out. This creates an absolutely electric dynamic within Ferrari. You have Leclerc, who knows every nuance of these cars, working alongside Hamilton, who brings fresh perspectives from his championship-winning experience at Mercedes. Together, they're pushing Ferrari's development in ways that pure engineering upgrades simply cannot match. Leclerc's response was equally revealing. When asked about these mysterious improvements, he confirmed there wasn't a single breakthrough moment or silver bullet solution. Instead, he described improvements happening everywhere, with small details combining to create significant performance gains. This suggests Ferrari has been systematically addressing weaknesses across multiple areas simultaneously. The timing of this revelation is absolutely crucial. With just 4 race weekends remaining in the season, Ferrari finds themselves in a 3-way battle for second place in the Constructors' Championship. They're fighting Mercedes and Red Bull, with only 10 points separating all 3 teams. McLaren has already secured first place, but that second-place finish represents millions in prize money and massive prestige. What makes this fight even more intense is how it's evolved throughout the season. Early on, it looked like a straightforward battle between Ferrari and Mercedes. But Max Verstappen's recent strong performances, combined with Yuki Tsunoda consistently scoring points, pulled Red Bull right back into contention. This means every single point matters desperately. With 188 points still available across the remaining races, any of these 3 teams could claim that coveted second place. Ferrari's improved processes could be the deciding factor that tips the scales in their favor. The psychological aspect cannot be ignored either. Hamilton's confidence is clearly building. His comments about finally understanding how to drive the Ferrari suggest we might see an even stronger version of the 7-time world champion in these final races. When Hamilton is confident and comfortable in his car, he becomes virtually unstoppable. Meanwhile, Leclerc continues showing why he's considered one of the sport's brightest talents. His podium finish in Mexico, which he attributes to these systematic improvements rather than any single breakthrough, demonstrates Ferrari's steady progress. But here's what really excites me about this story. Ferrari isn't just getting faster through traditional development. They're becoming more efficient, more precise, more professional in every aspect of their operation. This type of improvement is sustainable and builds momentum that can carry into future seasons. The implications extend far beyond this championship battle. If Ferrari has truly revolutionized their internal processes, they're setting themselves up for long-term success. These improvements in communication, decision-making, and operational efficiency create a foundation that new car developments can build upon. As we head toward the season finale in Abu Dhabi, keep your eyes on Ferrari, not just for flashy overtakes or brilliant strategy calls, but for signs of this systematic excellence Hamilton described. Because if he's right, Ferrari isn't just fighting for second place this year. They're positioning themselves to challenge for championships in seasons to come. And that makes these final races absolutely unmissable. What if I told you that one of Formula One's brightest stars has been hiding a secret weapon that completely changed his championship fight? Picture this. You're flying around Monaco at 200 miles per hour, and you deliberately choose to drive blind to crucial timing data that every other driver depends on. Sounds insane, right? Well, that's exactly what Lando Norris has been doing, and it just helped him reclaim the championship lead. Let me take you inside the mind of a driver who made a decision that goes against everything we think we know about modern Formula One racing. This isn't just about removing some numbers from a dashboard. This is about a fundamental shift in racing psychology that's delivering incredible results when it matters most. The story begins in Monaco back in May, where Norris achieved something that would set the stage for his incredible championship comeback. After crossing the finish line victorious in the prestigious Monaco Grand Prix, he made a decision that would have shocked his engineers and probably confused most racing fans. He told his team to remove the Delta timing display from his qualifying setup permanently. Now, if you're not familiar with Delta timing, let me explain why this decision was so radical. During qualifying sessions, drivers rely on this real-time data stream that constantly tells them whether their current lap is faster or slower than their previous best attempt. It's like having a constant voice in your ear saying, "You're 3/10 up," or "You're 2/10 down" as you navigate each corner. Every modern Formula One driver uses this information to push harder or adjust their approach mid-lap. But Norris saw something different. He realized that this constant stream of information was actually becoming a distraction rather than a help. Instead of focusing purely on extracting maximum performance from every single corner, he found himself getting caught up in the numbers game, constantly, calculating and recalculating instead of just driving with pure instinct. The psychology behind this decision reveals something fascinating about peak performance. When you remove the safety net of knowing how you're doing compared to your previous attempt, something remarkable happens to your mindset. You can't ease off because you don't know if you're ahead. You can't panic because you don't know if you're behind. You simply have to push every single corner to its absolute limit, lap after lap. Think about it from a mental perspective. Without that delta time constantly updating, Norris essentially created a state of controlled ignorance that forced him into maximum attack mode at all times. There's no room for strategic thinking about whether to push harder or play it safe. There's only the pure pursuit of perfection in each moment. The results speak for themselves in the most dramatic way possible. Since making this change at Monaco, Norris has claimed 4 pole positions, including an absolutely dominant performance at the Mexican Grand Prix that left the entire paddock stunned. His pole lap in Mexico wasn't just fast, it was a statement of intent that put him over half a second clear of his teammate Oscar Piastri and left Ferrari's Charles Leclerc trailing by more than a quarter of a second. But here's where the story gets even more interesting. This wasn't just about one incredible qualifying session. The Mexican Grand Prix represented the culmination of one of the most impressive championship comebacks in recent Formula One history. Just a few months earlier, after retiring from the Dutch Grand Prix, Norris found himself trailing his teammate Piastri by a massive 34 points. Most observers wrote off his championship chances right there. What followed was a masterclass in psychological resilience and tactical adjustments. Norris didn't just change his dashboard setup. He transformed his entire approach to the championship fight. He eliminated alcohol from his lifestyle, working with McLaren to fine-tune the car's suspension setup to better suit his driving style, and most importantly, he embraced this counterintuitive approach to qualifying that removed the mental clutter of constant data analysis. The Mexican Grand Prix victory that followed his dominant pole position wasn't just another win, it was a 30-second demolition job that announced to the entire Formula One world that the championship fight was far from won. Over. While Piastri recovered to 5th place, Norris controlled the race from start to finish, turning what should have been a competitive battle into a procession. This transformation reveals something profound about the modern Formula One driver's relationship with technology and data. In an era where teams spend millions on telemetry systems and real-time analysis, Norris discovered that sometimes less information can actually lead to better performance. By removing the constant feedback loop of delta timing, he freed his mind to focus on what truly matters: the pure act of driving at the absolute limit. The championship implications of this psychological shift cannot be overstated. Norris now holds a slender 1-point lead over Piastri with just 4 races remaining, while 4-time world champion Max Verstappen sits 26 points behind. What seemed impossible just months ago is now within touching distance. And it all started with a decision to drive without knowing how fast he was going. As we head into the final stretch of this championship battle, Norris has proven that sometimes the most powerful weapon in a driver's arsenal isn't more data or better technology. It's the courage to trust your instincts and push beyond the comfort zone of constant information. In a world obsessed with metrics and analysis, he chose to embrace the unknown, and it's delivering results when the championship is on the line. This story teaches us that peak performance often comes from unexpected places, and sometimes the key to going faster is simply removing the obstacles that prevent us from pushing our absolute limits. The Formula One silly season just got spicier, and Yuki Tsunoda's career hangs in the balance. Red Bull has finally broken their silence on what might be the most anticipated driver decision of the year, and the clock is officially ticking for the Japanese driver who's been fighting tooth and nail to keep his seat. Here's what we know so far. Laurent Mekies, Red Bull's team principal, just confirmed that they'll make their final driver decision before the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix on December 7th. That gives Tsunoda roughly 5 weeks to prove he deserves to stay in Formula One, because, let's be honest, his future looks pretty grim right now. The writing has been on the wall for months. Isack Hadjar, the Racing Bulls rookie who's been turning heads all season, is reportedly set to get promoted to the senior Red Bull team alongside Max Verstappen for 2026. Hadjar earned his first podium at the Dutch Grand Prix back in August, and that breakthrough moment seems to have sealed the deal for Red Bull's decision-makers. But here's where it gets really interesting. If Hadjar moves up to Red Bull Racing, and Arvid Lindblad gets promoted from Formula 2 to Racing Bulls as expected, that leaves exactly 1 seat available at Racing Bulls. And guess who's competing for that final spot? Tsunoda and Liam Lawson are basically in a cage match for survival, with the loser potentially finding themselves without a Formula One drive entirely. According to inside sources, Lawson is actually the driver most at risk of being left out in the cold. That's a shocking turn of events, considering he was the golden boy who replaced Sergio Perez earlier this season. But Formula One is ruthless, and recent performances matter more than past promises. Now, you might be wondering why Red Bull is taking so long to make this decision. Originally, they were supposed to announce everything after the Mexican Grand Prix, but Mekis revealed they're deliberately delaying to keep everyone focused on the current championship battle. Smart move, actually, because driver announcements can be massive distractions when you're trying to win races. But there's another layer to this delay, and it might actually be good news for Tsunoda. Mekis admitted that Yuki's recent improvement is one of the main reasons they're taking extra time. At the Mexican Grand Prix, Tsunoda was only 0.2 off Max Verstappen's pace in qualifying and showed strong race pace before strategic decisions hurt his points potential. The team principal was pretty complimentary about Tsunoda's Mexico performance, calling it his best weekend in a long time. Yuki had been scoring points in 3 of the 5 races leading up to Mexico, showing the kind of consistency that Red Bull values. Even though he finished 11th in Mexico City, that wasn't entirely his fault, according to Mekis, who acknowledged they left him out longer on strategy and had a slow pit stop that cost him valuable points. This creates fascinating drama because Tsunoda is essentially auditioning for his career every single race weekend. Every qualifying session, every race start, every overtake could be the difference between staying in Formula One or watching from the sidelines. The pressure must be absolutely crushing, but champions are made in moments like these. Adding another twist to this saga, Tsunoda just lost a potential lifeline. Many expected he might land a reserve driver role at Aston Martin, especially given his long relationship with Honda, who will be Aston Martin's engine partner starting in 2026. But Aston Martin just announced that Jack Crawford will be their 3rd driver and attend every race in a reserve capacity, effectively closing that door for Tsunoda. The timeline Red Bull has set is particularly brutal. They're not waiting until after the season ends, like they did last year with Lawson's appointment. This decision will come while there are still races to run, which means whoever gets the bad news will have to continue performing professionally while dealing with career devastation. What makes this even more compelling is that Red Bull has complete freedom to choose whoever they want. As Mekis put it, they're lucky enough to have options and can pick based purely on merit. That's both encouraging and terrifying for the drivers involved, because it means politics won't save anyone. For Tsunoda, these next few races represent everything. He needs to not just match Verstappen's pace, but potentially exceed it. He needs mistake-free weekends, strong qualifying performances, and points finishes. Most importantly, he needs to show the killer instinct that separates Formula One drivers from everyone else. The Japanese driver has already shown he can bounce back from adversity. Remember, he started this season poorly after replacing Lawson, but he's gradually built momentum and confidence. His recent performances suggest he might be hitting his stride at exactly the right moment. Red Bull's decision will reshape the entire driver market for 2026. It's not just about one seat at Racing Bulls. It's about the future direction of both Red Bull teams and the careers of multiple talented drivers. With Abu Dhabi approaching fast, every practice session matters. Every 1/10 of a second counts. Tsunoda knows this might be his last chance to prove he belongs in the pinnacle of motorsport, and that desperation might just be his greatest weapon. Did you witness the moment that perfectly captures why Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen battles are absolutely legendary? The Mexican Grand Prix just delivered another chapter in their epic rivalry, and Red Bull's Helmut Marko summed it up perfectly with one simple statement that has everyone talking. Picture this. 2 Formula One titans going wheel to wheel around the challenging Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, both refusing to give an inch. What happened next was pure racing theater that reminded us why these 2 champions create magic whenever they share the same piece of tarmac. The drama began right from the opening lap, when chaos erupted at the start. Verstappen found himself taking an unconventional line through the first sequence of corners, essentially going straight where others turned. This bold move initially cost him position, handing 3rd place back to Hamilton. But anyone who knows Max Verstappen understands that setbacks only fuel his determination. By lap 6, both drivers were pushing the absolute limits of their machinery and their racing lines. The intensity reached fever pitch when both Hamilton and Verstappen went off track through the opening turns. The battle was so fierce that neither could maintain the racing line, testament to the incredible pressure they were putting on each other. Hamilton found himself in trouble again at turn 4, where he made a critical error that would define his entire race. After running wide and cutting across the grass to rejoin the circuit, the stewards deemed he had left the track and gained an unfair advantage. The penalty was swift and severe, a 10-second time penalty that would ultimately drop him from podium contention to 8th place. Meanwhile, Verstappen showcased exactly why he's a three-time world champion. Starting from 5th position on the grid, many within Red Bull's own ranks doubted his chances of making significant progress. The RB21 hadn't been showing the pace needed to challenge at the front, and conventional wisdom suggested a difficult afternoon lay ahead. But Helmut Marko, Red Bull's senior advisor, had different ideas. While his colleagues remained pessimistic about Verstappen's prospects, Marko stood alone in his faith. He was so confident in Max's abilities that he challenged his Red Bull colleagues to bet against the Dutchman, only to find no takers for his wager. That morning conversation between Marko and Verstappen proved pivotal. The Austrian veteran delivered what he called a pep talk, encouraging Max to think positively about his chances. Sometimes in motorsport, belief becomes the difference between mediocrity and brilliance, and this was one of those moments. Verstappen's strategy proved masterful. While others in the top 5 committed to two-stop strategies, Max opted for the more challenging one-stop approach. This meant starting on medium tires and then switching to softs for an extended final stint that would test both his driving skills and tire management abilities to their absolute limits. The gamble looked increasingly risky as the race progressed. Oliver Behrman, the young Haas driver, was putting together the drive of his life and looked set to claim his first Formula One podium. George Russell in the Mercedes was also running strong on fresher rubber. Both drivers had committed to 2 stops, giving them newer tires for the final phase of the race. But Verstappen had other plans. Despite facing the unenviable task of nursing soft compounds to the checkered flag while maintaining competitive pace, he delivered a masterclass in tire management. Lap after lap, he maintained consistency that bordered on robotic precision, turning in times that rarely varied by more than half a tenth of a second. The tension was palpable as Marko watched from the Red Bull pit wall. Every lap brought the possibility of tire degradation that could destroy their strategy. The softs were being pushed far beyond their optimal window, and conventional wisdom suggested they would eventually capitulate under the pressure. Instead, Verstappen delivered what Marko later described as an incredible stint. Rather than falling back to the chasing pack, Max actually started pressuring Charles Leclerc for second place. The Ferrari driver, despite having fresher rubber from his two-stop strategy, found himself under intense pressure from the Red Bull on ancient soft tires. A late virtual safety car period, triggered by Carlos Sainz's retirement, provided Leclerc with just enough breathing room to maintain second place. Without that intervention, Verstappen might have achieved something truly special by claiming second place with one of the most audacious tire strategies in recent memory. The result spoke volumes about Verstappen's current championship situation. While he closed the gap to title leader Lando Norris, he still faces a 36-point deficit with only 4 races and 2 sprint events remaining. Mathematics are challenging, but if Mexico proved anything, it's that writing off Max Verstappen is done at one's own peril. But perhaps the most telling moment came from Helmut Marko's post-race reflection on the Hamilton-Verstappen battle. His observation that whenever these two legends meet on track, something dramatic inevitably happens, captures the essence of why their rivalry continues to captivate fans worldwide. Their 2021 championship battle may be history, but the competitive fire between them burns as intensely as ever. Even though Hamilton hasn't been in title contention recently, put him alongside Verstappen and sparks will fly. It's a testament to the respect and rivalry that exists between two drivers who have pushed each other to extraordinary heights. The Mexican Grand Prix reminded us that some rivalries transcend current championship standings or team performance. When Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen share the same stretch of asphalt, expect fireworks, expect controversy, and expect racing at its most compelling. That's simply what happens when legends collide.